The Survivors is brought to you by our friends at Calmary. This podcast mentions suicide, mental illness, grief, and loss, and may be triggering for some listeners. So please take care of your well-being by pausing or skipping any sections that feel uncomfortable to you. And if you or someone you know is struggling, please call 988 for support.
Hey y'all, so this week is my story, and it's kind of wild, but in a good way, because I'm alive today because of my story. So my whole mental health journey started the last quarter of 2022, and so much shit happened, and in my little 4'11" body, I just didn't know what the fuck to do with all the things were happening. So in September of 2022, I got the opportunity to take an early retirement from my job. I know when you look at me, I look all of 12. You know what? I get it. I'm very fortunate that I look 12, unless I go and buy beer and then they want to see my driver's license, whatever. But I had decided to take an early retirement. And then here rolls October. And in October, my wife got shingles. And if you've ever met anybody that has had shingles, you know that there's nothing you can do for them. And I've never seen her in that much pain. And I'm a true empath. So when she was hurting, I was hurting and trying to deal with the fact that I'm taking an early retirement from work, which in itself sounds like a really great idea. But at the time I was 59 and a half. And we all know that there's a little ageism in the workforce. And so I was a little concerned about, getting a job because, you know what, I like my bougie toys.
You do like your bougie toys.
I do love my bougie toys. So, we progressed through, my wife having shingles, and we had decided to take a little, day road trip to Letchworth Falls, which is in upstate New York. And we had rented a car and we were just driving along, and out of fucking nowhere came a deer, right? Literally, I didn't see it. The driver behind us didn't see it, and takes out the whole passenger side of the rental car.
Do you know I don't even know this story? You have never told me this story.
Yeah. So we're standing on the side of the road in this bumfuck nowhere. Right? If you've ever been to upstate New York, there's a lot of these little towns that are this big, super tiny, right? Standing on the side of the road, I'm shaking like a leaf. It's late October and, kind of cold, and the driver behind us said she hadn't even seen the deer. And so we were standing there, and my faith in humanity came back that day, because there were a couple of drivers, old rednecks, that were driving down and are you ladies okay? And we're fine. And so that whole thing put me in such a state. And here I am still worried about my wife, right? She's in so much pain. We had a friend in the back of the car, and he didn't know what to do. So we went along with the rental car back to Rochester, and things are compiling, right? So I'd already decided to leave my job. My wife has shingles. Now I hit a fucking deer. We get to the rental car. Always something, right? So we get to the rental car place, and I'm already freaked out, right? We're limping along, going 20 miles an hour on the highway. People are honking at me, and I'm fuck, I can't go any faster. The whole right side of my car is gone. Get to Rochester, go get a new rental car, and the guy was such a dick, right? I'm already in a state. He's well, do you have a police report? Fuck, no, I don't have a police report. The deer's dead. Okay, I didn't.
There's your report.
There's your report. Okay, here, deer dead. He was so adamant about this fucking police report. And, I'm still reeling from all this. And wife's in a lot of pain. The guy that was in our back seat, he was all freaked out. And I'm trying to maintain semblance of okay, I'm okay. But I felt my chest tightening. So we get home after getting a new rental car. And then during all of this, I got catfished. Thankfully.
Were you dating? Were you cheating on your wife?
I wasn't cheating on my wife. I was it was like an emotional attachment, right? Because as my wife was like dealing with the shingle stuff, I was just trying to figure out my life. Thankfully, I got to the point where I didn't spend any money, right? Like
Oh, you mean you got scammed?
I totally got scammed.
You didn't get catfished.
No, I got catfished.
Did you?
Yeah. I ended up having to file a report with the FBI and a whole bunch of shit. Yeah.
That's not...
It was crazy. So, still have all this like depression and like negative self-talk and shit going on in my head. And then we had a really good friend of ours who passed away unexpectedly. And so, still more shit, still trying to figure out what my next play is going to be for work and things like that. And, being 59 and a half, I was taught not to talk about what was going on inside my head. Number one, I didn't understand what it was. Number two, I didn't really know how to talk about it because I didn't understand what it was. So then our friend passes away, and then right close to Thanksgiving, my father-in-law passed away. Now throw in a little bit of seasonal depression and a little holiday depression. And
it's a perfect storm.
And it was a perfect storm. And so if you go back and go to Shit That Goes On Our Heads, go listen to season 1, episode 3. Maybe don't listen with small children because I say the word fuck like 47 times in the
almost
first 2
as
minutes.
much as she says it in this podcast. Just
and
saying.
By that time, I should have known that something was really wrong. I ended up getting really drunk. I lost my cell phone in New York City. And then here comes Christmas Day. And on Christmas Day in upstate New York, it was minus 22 outside. Minus 22. And I just wanted to go for a drive. I go out to my car. My car doesn't start. And now I'm just completely defeated. Like, I was mad, I was sad, I was angry. And I just didn't know what to do. So I came back in the house and I didn't even tell my wife. I just went upstairs to my bedroom and I was like crying and so I had all these pent up emotions in my head. And I had remembered that I had read an article like in November of that year about the 988 crisis line. And I just needed to talk to somebody. I wanted to talk to my wife, but I didn't know what the fuck to tell her. Like I didn't have the words. I didn't have my footing. So I ended up contacting the 988 crisis line because I was ready to end my life right then. Thank God for 988. The woman on the other end of the line was the most compassionate woman I've ever talked to. And she gave me some tips and she gave me some information to contact a therapist and, told me that it was going to be okay and that, she would hang on the phone with me as long as I needed to just kind of get some footing. I get off the phone with her, and before I go downstairs to see my wife, I contacted the therapist and made an appointment for the very next day. So now I gained the courage and I went down and I talked to my wife. Now, at this point, nobody knew how depressed I was. I'm 100% extroverted. And I would show up to work every day with a smiling face. I would talk to friends with a smiling face. So on the outside, I looked perfectly fine. On the inside, all I wanted to do was die. I was completely fucking done. And so what happened after I talked to my wife, she was mad that I couldn't tell her what was going on, but I didn't know how to tell her what was going on.
It's hard. Like when you don't know yourself what you're feeling and maybe you've never had a panic attack and you don't even know what the signs and symptoms are, or when you're dysregulated like that, like sometimes you just have not got the words for it.
Yeah. And there were no podcasts or anything that I could listen to. Like I tried to drown out the voices in my head with music and now I know what I was going through because I'm writing my book, kind of detailing out what happened and what I would have done differently. If you've never written anything, it's super cathartic and you learn a ton of lessons about yourself. One of the things that, people could have picked up on was I was completely checked the fuck out. Like, I didn't want to do any decorations. I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I would sit in my recliner, just like veg out. I was like so tapped out. And one of the things that happened with my job is that once I decided that I was taking my early retirement, it took all my responsibilities away from me. So now I felt even more worthless. Like there was nothing left for me to give, and that I felt like I was just pushed aside. In mid-December, I had gotten a new job. I wasn't going to start until July of 2023 because they wanted me to enjoy some of my retirement. So that was like another small glimmer of hope. But because I was so depressed, I couldn't fathom what was going on. So the day after my suicide attempt, like I said, thank God I'm here today. That woman was fucking amazing. I decided to share my journey on social media because I have a ton of friends. So I'm an extrovert. I like to party. Everybody likes to hang out with me.
You're adorable and you're very fun to talk to. So it's, for those who don't know, she's
all 4'11".
Powerhouse. All right. You're like a little garden gnome.
I am the garden gnome. So like the next day, like I share my journey on social media and people were terrified, right? They didn't know what to do, what to say, because they didn't realize how depressed I was. My one point I want to make is if you have an extroverted friend, take the time to really check on them. Like ask probing questions. Ask a question that you know that they have to answer. Because that's one thing that people didn't ask. They would ask me like, hey, how's your day going? I'm like, hey, living the dream. And then on the inside, I'm like, fuck, I'm done. Like, I couldn't take any more pain, any more angst. It was a lot. And so as soon as I shared my journey on social media, about 200 people reach out and thank me because now they didn't feel so terrified and alone in their own journey. And that was kind of like my mission, right? Number one, to let people know what was going on. Number two, to let people know that they're not alone, that there's people like me, like the least, like nobody expected that, to be extremely depressed. So then I started talking to my co-host from Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, which is Dirty Skittles. Now, Dirty Skittles and I had worked together for like 7 years. And at the time, she was my manager. I use that term super loosely because I retired in April. But we would call each other every day and just laugh about shit you probably shouldn't laugh about. But it helped set the trajectory for the day because even if I was going through something bad, my endorphins were up. And I found like my two healers were sharing my journey and laughing. So one day during our conversations of laughter, like fits of laughter, like there's a couple of times I actually wet my pants. You know what? I'm not ashamed to admit it.
It shows your humanness. Shows your human side.
I'm my human side, right? I wet my pants. But she's like, hey, we should do a podcast. So we ended up doing a podcast. We released our first episode on February 14th, 2023.
Take a step to your mental well-being with Calmery, trusted online therapy platform that supports you through life's challenges. Connect with licensed therapists and reap the benefits of traditional therapy enhanced with digital tools whenever you need it. Visit Calmery.com to get started.
And the reason I chose that day is that I had buried my mom on February 14th, 1997. So I wanted to change the trajectory of that day. And like healing was not easy. Okay, there's no easy button, but I found like each day got a little better and a little easier. And my wife and I started having deeper conversations and figuring out like what were the things that like gave me a lot of angst. One of the things I started to do was set boundaries. As an empath, that was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Like I have a black box, right? It's an imaginary black box, and if it smells like drama, like I really have to think about letting that drama into me because sometimes I don't know how to turn it off. So started setting the boundaries, life-changing. Like if you haven't done it yet, set those boundaries.
That was my biggest thing this year. with setting boundaries. My therapist, my kids, they're all so proud of me because it is where I have worked the hardest. I totally get it. Because your co-host, and I'm pointing to myself, is a fellow empath. And it is hard work to think about yourself.
It is. And so like once I started doing that, like things got better. But I will tell you that I had to, and I'm going to coin this phrase from Dirty Skittles, who is the co-host on Shit That Goes On Our Heads. I had to speed date my therapist. So I went through 3 different therapists before I found one that truly worked for me. So then let's fast forward to July of 2023. I get this job. I'm working for a really small consulting firm because when I left my corporate job, I was like, I don't want to work for a big company ever again. And things went along swimmingly. Like I was very thankful. Once they had found out I had an award-winning podcast, they asked me like why I came back to work full time. And I was like, well, I need benefits. So they offered me 30 hours a week and benefits. And so I did that for a year and a half. And then fast forward to November of last year, 2024, they got acquired by Ernst & Young. And if you know anything about Ernst & Young, they're a huge consulting firm. And like, I didn't want to do that. And I went back into my old ways. I was waking up every day with anxiety attacks and I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't find it in me to do that because I knew in my heart that that's not what I wanted to do. And I made myself a promise too that I wouldn't compromise anymore because in 61, I've compromised my entire life. And this time I wasn't going to compromise. So my wife and I had been in New York City and she said, hey, why don't you quit your job? And I'm like, okay. It's kind of scary, right? Like I work because I want to work, not because I have to work. So we're sitting on the plane coming back from New York City. And, I didn't realize how long it takes to de-ice a plane. But, I'm okay with it.
It's not quick.
It's not quick. But it gave me time to, I had my resume on my phone and I had ChatGPT on my phone. And so I put my resume into ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, design an independent consulting firm based on what my life experience and what I've done on the podcast. And about 2 minutes later, it spit something out and I was like, oh, this is kind of like what I want to do. So I tweaked it down. And I had also gotten some really nice, with Shit That Goes On Our Heads, I had a couple of big sponsors that were interested in our podcast. And so if you've ever worked for like Ernst & Young or any of the big consulting firms, they have these independence clauses, meaning like if they've done any audits on these customers, you can't do business with them. So that was sign number 2, that it was like time to move on. And then with my book, I've had a couple of publishers that are showing some interest. And I really wanted to dive into that. And in between all of this is when I had my chat with Lisa, and I was like, we vibed.
We vibed so hard.
So hard. So on January 2nd, I gave him my 2 weeks notice. That same day, I formed my company called Shows Your Talent and Wellness. And I'm now like a month and a half into my business and
crushing it.
And I've never been happier. But that, I turned my horrible pain into purpose. And I just want people to see me as a story of hope. But I will tell you, it was not easy. I still, my emotions still ebb and flow, just like everybody else's. But now I have better tools and better things to help me get from day to day. And I don't ever want to get to the point where I was on Christmas Day 2022. And I don't want you to get to that point either.
You're talking about it though. See, that's the thing. That's the secret sauce, right? When we talk about what's going on, how you could talk to your wife in a different way, in a deeper, more powerful way, more honest and authentic way, how you were feeling and what was really going on. And it's about being honest with ourselves too. And kind of understanding the signs and signals that our bodies are sending us and that our brains are sending us when we're not okay. You're like so in tune with all of those things now in a way that you weren't. So you kind of, you kind of rode the wave to this point. That's the wave you rode, was, learning how to navigate, talking more, being more open, being more vulnerable, asking questions, sharing information about yourself. And that's what got you to here. But it's so important that you remember it is not an overnight thing. It's not. There's no quick fix.
There's no quick fix. It was like, think of like being on a beach and like body surfing and getting cracked in the head 87,000 times with a wave, and then just getting back up. And I really struggled. I mean, I probably have been depressed my entire life, but having that much happen in such a short period of time literally crushed my soul.
Yeah.
Would I change it? No, because I wouldn't be where I am today. Sometimes you have to go through some really hard shit so that you can find your true path.
You know what else you have to do? You have to sit in that shit.
Yeah. And sitting in it is sucky. And there's no, like I said, there's no easy button, but I get to be my true self. I get to be vulnerable. I'm still an empath. I'm still an extrovert. But I will say, when all the shit went down in November of 2024, this time I didn't keep it silent. Like, everybody knew where I stood, not only here at home, but on social media, people I worked with. Like, you could only hide resting bitch face for so long before they tell you to come off camera.
It was so funny during that time. Not funny, but I guess it was kind of funny that you would get off these calls and then you'd get on a call with me and be like, they all saw my bitch face. You could see it from space. It was so prominent. I couldn't get away from it.
But I felt so proud of myself that I knew where I had been and where I was now, and that I could be honest about my emotions and that people would understand. Have I lost some friends in this process? Yes. But you know what? There's a reason and a season for friendship. But at the same time, I took my little podcast shit that goes on in our heads with Dirty Skills, and we were able to amass 1 million downloads in December of 2024. And we're listened to in over 60 countries.
It's amazing what you
Journeys
guys have
like
done.
this and telling our stories have a ripple effect. And I hope that I hope my story touches somebody else's life and know that they're not alone and that they are worth it. And that little glimmer of hope helps you to make that phone call. Like I said, 988 is free. You can call, you can text. These people are amazing.
Yeah. There are lessons to be learned through everything that we go through, right? Like the good stuff, the bad stuff. We can't avoid both sides of it. It's life. Like, it doesn't matter whether, you're dealing with your own mental illness or someone else's, or you've lost a job, or you're grieving someone or something. Like, the things that you and I talk about and the things that you and I have been through are things that, like, everybody, if you are a human, you are touched in some way by these things. So why in the hell are we not all talking about all these things all the time? That's the point. That's what we're doing here.
And, people are like, you're so crazy to be doing another podcast. Well, you know what? We're still doing shit that goes on our heads, because in that podcast, we talk with different individuals that are going through some mental health journey or have gone through some really crappy stuff. But I wanted to do a podcast that really focused on suicide, not only from a survivor's point of view, but from an suicide attempt point of view. Because it's our stories that usually get shamed and are not heard and need to be heard. Now more than ever, these stories need to be shared. And we need to come together as a community and help each other. Times are really tough. And just like one other thing to touch on is the LGBTQIA plus community. I know we're all suffering, but please know that there are crisis lines like the Trevor Hotline, 988. There are resources out there. The world needs you. They cannot shut us up.
They can't. And I think that's a perfect opportunity for you and I to talk about, like, there's so much intersectionality with the two of us and what we do. You know, we have this intersection of mental health challenge that, you know, we've both had to navigate, and suicide, loss, and grief. We're both part of the queer community. You know, I am a crisis counselor for the Trevor Project, and we are a marginalized community right now. There are so many marginalized communities out there, but you and I happen to be part of the LGBTQ community, and that's, you know, we're getting hit to the head and to the gut every single day now. So if you're listening and you're part of our community, not just the survivors community, but the queer community, like, we are here for you. We are there to show you the way, help you connect to the resources that you need, because you're not alone.
You are not alone. And we can't wait to talk to you guys next week. And thank you all for tuning in. And please remember, you are enough. You are needed. You are wanted in this world. If you need help, reach out.
Amen. Love you, G.
I mean, Lisa, whatever your name is. Jack.
We'll put that.
Love you, Jack.
Bob. Just call me Bob from now on. Okay.
Thanks for joining us on The Survivors. Remember, no matter how tough things feel, you are enough, and the world needs you just the way you are. You're not alone in this journey. There's a community here, and every step forward counts. We're so grateful you took the time to listen, and we hope you'll take one day at a time. Just know there's always more light ahead.
Thanks for being here, friends. Just remember, help is out there in so many different places. So if you or someone you know is struggling, please call 988, and a trained crisis counselor like me will be there to help. You can also find an inclusive and comprehensive directory of mental health resources, tools, and content at thehelphub.co. Just remember that help is always just a call or a click away. We'll catch you next week. In the meantime, keep surviving.